All right, we are finishing up this worksheet, Practice Masters Level B, 9-4 ellipses, with problems 7 through 10. And what we're doing here is we're writing the equation of an ellipse in standard form when it starts out not in standard form. Standard form has, kind of looks like numbers 4, 5, and 6. The equations that are given to us. You've got the x's first, then you have the y's, and then equals 1 on all of these. So I'm going to collect my x's up front, and I'm going to collect my y's next, and then numbers on the right. Now you'll notice I left some space because I'm going to have to complete the square for both of these. If you have a value that doesn't have squared, an x that's not squared or a y that's not squared, that means you're going to have to complete the square. If the only x's I saw were squared, then I could write that as x minus 0 squared and I'd be done. That would be a complete square. But if you have a plain x or a plain y term, you're going to have to complete the square for those. So I'm going to go ahead and put plus and put blanks here because I'm going to need to complete the square. So put some blanks over to the right as well. All right, first one. There's no coefficient in front of x squared. That means it's ready for me to complete the square. That's as opposed to over here, which still has a coefficient for x in front of the y squared. So this one's ready for me to complete the square. This one's not yet. Let's go ahead and do this one. I take half of 4. I get 2. Okay, that's the number that goes down here in the factored form, and that's the number that I square to put up here and then also on the right. That's why I have these blanks, to remember to fill it in. Okay, so half of this number here, and since this is a positive number, this will be a positive number. Half of 4 is positive 2. And positive 2 squared gives me 4. This will always be positive because we get it by squaring something. So that means we're always going to be adding to both sides. Then don't forget the plus between parentheses. Now this next part, I'm going to have to go ahead and take out the 3 first. You don't really have to worry about greatest common factor. You're taking out any number that is in front of the squared variable. So whatever's in front of y squared comes out. But if I'm taking it out of parentheses, I have to take it out of everything in there. So I have to take a 3 out of 6, which leaves me with 2. Doesn't change my blank because I haven't done anything with the blank yet. Now I've got to complete the square. The parentheses is ready to be done. Okay, ready for me to complete the square. So half of negative 2, that's negative 1. So divided by 2, that gives me negative 1. That's what goes here. Then I square that, and that's what goes here. Whatever goes here, remember back here, if we're adding on the left, we have to balance it on the right. But you got to be careful because if you add something inside parentheses and there's a number out front, I didn't really just add 1 to the left. I really just added 3 times 1 to the left. So if I've added 3 times 1 to the left, I have to add 3 times 1 to the right. You don't have to write it as 3 times 1. You could just write it as 3. Okay, so on the right-hand side, I have 5 plus 4 plus 3, which is 12. So this is where I am. I have a completed square. It's almost in standard form. It's really close. The one thing that remains is that for ellipses, you always have to have the right-hand side equal to 1. 12 is not equal to 1, but if I divide it by 12, it will be. So I divide everything by 12. And now I have x plus 2 squared over 12 plus the 3 over 12 simplifies. This will always simplify. You won't be left with a number out in front. Sorry, I forgot to write squared there. And that's my standard form. Be very careful that you write the plus in the middle, that you write squared on each one of these. Next one, number 8. Starts out x squared plus 4y squared plus 4x minus 24y equals 60. Good time to pause the video and go ahead and try number 8 on your own. I'm going to start by collecting my x's in the front and then collecting my y's together, and then numbers go on the right. So I've got x squared plus 4x, go ahead and put your blank in there, plus 4y squared minus 24y, go ahead and put your blank in there, equals 60 plus 2 blanks. I can complete the square here. Half of 4 is 2. That means I'm going to get x plus 2 squared. Square 2 and I get 4. So 4 goes over here and 4 goes on the right. I'm not multiplying it times anything because there's nothing out in front to multiply it by. So all I added to the left here was 4. Now here I need to take out this 4 that's in front of y squared. When I take a 4 out of 24, that leaves me with 6. And now I'm going to complete my square with the negative 6. Half of negative 6 is negative 3. So that tells me I'm going to have y minus 3. Negative 3 squared is 9. Now keep in mind, when I go to add something on the other side, I didn't really just add a 9 to the left. I really just added a 4 times 9. 4 times 9 is 36. So the right-hand side now, 60 plus 4 plus 36, right here, adds up to 100. We're almost there. The only thing we have left to do is get equals 1 on the right. So I'm going to divide everything by 100, because 100 divided by 100 equals 1. And I get x plus 2 squared over 100 plus y minus 3 squared over 25, because the 4 goes into itself once and into 125 times, equals 1. And there's my standard equation. That would be number 8. Numbers 9 and 10 I'm going to go through a little faster. So pause and review if you need to. First thing I'm doing is I'm collecting my x's and my y's in the places in the equation where I need them. So x's together, then y's together. And I'm putting my blanks in all the way across. So now I'm going to take a 9 out of the x's, and a 4 out of the y's. The right-hand side doesn't change this time. Now I'm going to go ahead.
Keely Kleinett, come to the front office. Keely Kleinett to the front office.
I'm going to go ahead and take half of this number and square it. So half of this number is negative 1. That goes here. And square it, I get 1. What I just added to the left-hand side was 9 times 1, so I put 9 times 1, which is 9, on the right-hand side. That's because I have a number up front. Then half of this number is positive 1. Square it, you get positive 1. And what I just added to the left was 4 times 1, so I'm going to add 4 times 1 over here. This means on the right-hand side I'm going to get 36 when I add up 23 plus 9 plus 4. Now I can divide everything by 36 to get a 1 on the right-hand side of the equation. And 9 over 36 becomes 1 over 4. 4 over 36 becomes 1 over 9. And 36 over 36 becomes 1. That's number 9. Almost done. Number 10. Number 10, when I write it with the x's collected, I get this. Y's collected, I get this. And I'm adding 2 blanks on the right-hand side. take a 4 out of the x's, take a 16 out of the y's. Right-hand side doesn't change. Okay, now I'm going to complete the square here. Half of -2 is -1. -1 squared is 1. That means I just added 4 times 1 to the left. So come over here and add 4 times 1 to the right. Then I've got half of 4 is 2. Square it and I get 4. Remember that this number is going to have the same sign as the b term did. And since I added a 4 here, that really was adding a 16 times 4, which is a 64 to the left-hand side. So I went and added a 64, 16 times 4 to the right-hand side. Let's see what that gives us. 32 plus 64 is 96. Okay, now I'm ready to get it equal to 1 on the right-hand side. 4 times, let's see, 16 times 5 gives me 80. 16 times 6 gives me, 4 goes into 96 24 times. This is not working out quite the same way as some of the other ones do. It still works out. But you notice on the other ones it was this times this was giving us the denominator. And I was kind of expecting that here, but it really doesn't necessarily happen at all. So that was just a happy coincidence on the last few problems. Here I just need to simplify the old-fashioned way. So find the number that goes into 16 and one that goes into 96. That's 16. 16 goes into itself once and into 96 6 times. And this is my standard equation. And that is everything.